All right. It's 1-800-Flowers time. It's 1-800-Flowers time. 1-800-Flowers time. 1-800-Flowers time. All right, guys. Here we are again for a new day, a new week in the 1-800-Flowers saga. The possible short squeeze and what the hell is going on with this gosh darn stock. I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's get a little update for the week of where we've been with this crazy guy. Okay, so obviously I want to hook everyone with a possible short squeeze coming on, but that's not really the point here, okay? The point here is to document this evidence all along the way, all right? So give me 1 second. Let me first get my little face up there. Come here, little guy. So you can see my beautiful face. There I am. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so looking at this chart, right? What happened this week? This is crazy. Like, it's a freaking heartbeat monitor. Look at that thing. Beep, 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 beep. Look at that volume. Look at that. 200 shares. Okay, that's as close to real volume as you're going to get. That's still fake because the shares don't exist. Okay? They don't exist. This is my claim. Okay? So, things like a 226,000 share trade on an established float of 9 million, that when you account for everyone that has the 9 million shares, it doesn't move. So if the shares aren't moving, how is it possible to get this? Oh, I know. The same reason you have this heartbeat monitor. Beep, 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 beep. They're using market maker exemptions, because they cannot find my shares. Where are my shares? Where's Correct Dad's shares? Oh my God, they're missing. Okay, so this is normal, right? This happens all the time. It's happened with GameStop, happens with everything. Super annoying. They use these synthetic shares. It's really a pain in the friggin' butt. It drives me nuts as a supply chain professional that you gotta have me out here guessing what fake supply is out there as well. On top of the real supply, I got a model for fake one. Okay, fine, whatever, fine. I'll do it, okay? So, just as an example, right? Shoes to bills. You can see my stuff there. Anyways, the shares available to short, 500,000. If you just saw that, is what is on my Fidelity account. Okay. Now, look at iBorrow. Okay, anyone can check their shares available to short in their own account for this, right? You see how iBorrow keeps going up 1.4 million, right? And then if you just saw my E-Trade, I don't want to do it again because that's my account, but you would see if I click this shares available to short, everyone can see that it will show that there's way less shares available to short than what the public APIs are showing right now. Okay, why is it doing that? It's doing that because they're really screwed right now. They're hitting different breaking points on not locating shares. It's getting tight, basically. So everyone's right that this happens all the time. There's market maker exemption rules that they can manipulate and stop squeezes from happening all the time. This is correct. But what's different here is the float is so constrained that they're running out of legal rules, and I can prove that, okay? So the other thing that they are missing, let's go, if you can see my screen here. Hold on. Let's go to here. All right, so let's go to the SEC short, the FINRA short volume daily is what I need, okay? Daily short volume files. That's what I need. Actually, no. That's not what I need. Because this gives me the text files. I need the different ones. I think it's this one, sales volume data. Yes. Okay, yeah. This gives you 365 days, but you can filter on your stock in the day. All right, so you see how every company who reports to FINRA every day has to, here, I'll filter on 100 files so you can see. But it's basically 3 reports that they have to, and they all mean different things. They're legal reports, okay? So this is where you got to put your private investigator hat on, guys. Okay, you can take the date off. Oh, market. Duh. This UI is the freaking worst. Okay. Let's go to symbol flowers. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So, if you can see, all right. So these reports, to kind of sum them up, every day is a way for them as a supply chain person to break it down for someone in supply chain. It's like an audit, right? They're trying to locate all of their inventory for the day. There's so many high frequency transactions, like that crazy trade I just showed you. Let's pull it up again for a second if you don't believe me. Right? That crazy trade right there. That 200, and there's a couple of them, and they're happening all the time. Okay? It's normal, kind of. All right? They're supposed to reconcile at the end of the day after all those crazy trades happen to make sure that they're still accounting for shares. Okay, so let's go to flows on Fintel to kind of break this down for you guys. All right, see my screen? Ooh, this is getting higher, I think. This actually should be getting lower, yeah. I think it's getting lower here because they're doing the wash trading. The denominator here is volume, so if they can increase volume based on synthetic share trading, then they can lower this artificially, but it's not a real number. Okay, so back to my argument here to explain to everyone how they're missing. Okay, let's see. So if you see here, these are the FINRA exempt volumes that they use for the day, right? So every day when they can't locate shares, right? This day they couldn't locate 10 shares. This day they couldn't locate 3,000 shares. This day they couldn't locate another 3,000 shares, right? Goes all the way to the 3rd here. Once we get here, you see 0, right? Normally, that means that they did locate shares, so they're good. No issues, right? Well, that's not exactly true because what happened was they are moving it around in dark pool, right? I'll prove it to you, which is what they always do, right? This isn't new, but it just helps tell the story of what's going on, okay? So I know people are going to challenge me and tell me that I'm wrong, but I promise you're wrong. You can ask me any questions you want. Okay, so you can see here how like this kind of stuff doesn't make sense. Well, it does because you see how it goes from 51 to 70 to 56. They're moving short volume demand back and forth for the last few days they have until legally they can't not post this NCTRF report, right? This is the one that they missed right here, this one. You can see where they reported it here on the 2nd, but then they missed it on the 3rd. Wait. NCT. Okay, all right. So they do have it on the 3rd. They missed it on the 4th. Yeah, it was the 4th. Okay, they missed it on the 4th, then the 5th, now the 6th. There's no NCTRF report for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Those are the 3 days that I've noticing. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, what that means is if it's a reporting issue, you would see in other stocks. So I checked other stocks. And there was some, like on the first day, that had some delays. But as time went on, everyone else did get their NCTRF reports out in the next couple days. So I didn't see any weird anomalies for 3 days happening except for this company. So most likely, there is an overall like liquidity issue going on in the market probably. It's causing all kinds of issues. They might also have some sort of system updates. I know that there's a lot of plans for all of these companies that have to deal with financial markets to update systems throughout this year, actually. But this one, with this stock, I almost feel like it's a perfect storm for them to kind of hide what they're doing through a bunch of reasons why they can't locate their shares, and they're trying to hold out. So basically, they have T+1 and T+2 days, different laws. I believe it's Rule 201, SEC Rule 201. Let's see. Uptick rule. No, not that one. Is it 203 maybe? 203 or 204. Let's see. It's one of these rules. I have it written down. Let me see. Because I know everyone's going to challenge me and say, you don't know what you're talking about, but I have looked. I don't have to know all the freaking names for all this stuff. I just have to know that I've modeled for everything. All right, so back to... Here we go. This is what I needed from my boy here. All right, so I believe I listed out exactly what rule they broke. Let's see. This has helped me organize my thoughts. So if you're looking at this, thank God for AI. It's changed so much in the past few months. That's why I've been able to do this. I'm able to cross-reference my research off of multiple different AIs. I'm able to pull from all of my research from different cloud storages that I have. So as I'm walking throughout the day and things happen, if I'm not by my computer, I can kind of reference a lot of my documents and get an idea of what's going on and then prove it with math later when I get home. I was trying to look exactly for the law that they're broken. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just for the sake of time, what's happening is, and you can check for yourself if you don't believe me, they're just basically, there's walls breaking. They're, all stock is priced based on supply and demand. The hardest thing is to model correctly for supply and demand. Demand and supply constantly change, and to model that ecosystem is hard. But for this company, the demand, when you take out synthetic fake trading, like I keep showing everyone, it's really tiny. There's most likely only 1,000 shareholders of this company besides me that are not institutions or insiders and not synthetic shares. So that's why this possibly has potential to hit a perfect storm. Okay, so as an example, it wouldn't be possible for a little old guy like me to put a wrench into this system for them, where they're using legal loopholes to hide the fact that they can't find shares. But here it might be possible, because the odds of the 1,000, I'm just guessing based on some random napkin math I've done, but the odds of the 1,000 retail investors that are in this stock that care so much, that are so freaking annoying as this guy right here, that also is on a E-Trade account that was on a margin account at one point. Okay, there's another crazy kink to the story. So I was on a margin account. I took it off a margin account. I took my funds below the $25,000 threshold for margin. My brokerage account still showed that I owed money for margin, and that was weird. This is months before I even got into FLWS. So then I called my brokerage. They told me it's just on the UI on the front end. The back end is still set for you as cash. You don't owe any money. Don't worry about it. Okay. So now I'm in 1-800-Flowers, and that's when I get the epiphany this week that, holy crap, they might have been using my measly 2,000 shares to help them hide this, because they might be mistaken that on the back end, I actually might be set to a margin account, and they didn't want to admit that, right? I would never accuse them of that. But just as proof, as a concerned investor, I asked for 3 specific files that I'm allowed to have to prove if they're loaning my shares. They have 1 to 3 days to get back to me on that. I'll go through that, and if they even show me with these documents that they are not lending my shares and I validate them, that throws a little wrench into my analysis here. I don't know how that's possible. So even this alone will be great for this evidence-based saga, because I need more data points here. So like I have theories on why they're missing this report, right? I can only speculate. I have a lot of great evidence. Those abnormal trades are very suspicious. The people that are involved are suspicious, okay? So if you want to go to Fintel and you want to go to short interest and you go to funds shorting FLWS, the exact 10 million shares short are from these two guys. You can look into them if you want and make your own speculations, but I would say everything makes sense to me now. I get it. I understand what's going on. Look at this timing, too. 11, 12, 11, 14. That's the exact time that Fund 1 dumped their 3 million shares, and then the other Nantahala and Newton bought a lot of those 3 million shares, and then these guys went short deeper, almost like they got baited into a short trap. And now they're trying to stop that trap that they got in. Will they succeed? I don't think they can. The question is how long they can prolong this. That's what I'm trying to figure out, trying to put as many wrenches in it as I can, right? If they're doing anything illegal, then I should ask for information. So part of that is asking E-Trade. As everyone knows, I filed the SEC whistleblower complaint. Probably won't get answered, but that's fine. E-Trade has an obligation to get me those documents, so that's good. That'll help. I also filed a complaint with FINRA asking for some documents as well. I think that might help. I'll call them on Monday. And then I'll also probably call the NASDAQ hotline for whistleblowers as well on Monday, because I have high speculative evidence that it is most likely Group 1 and Simplex trading back and forth to stop investors in FLWS from getting the price realization that they deserve after this recent earnings. It's not our fault that they got baited into some short trap and now they're trying to get out. You shouldn't have done that. Sorry. You're not allowed to manipulate the market because you made a mistake. You got to eat your mistake, just like retail does, okay? So that's why this saga is here. Like, even if it doesn't happen, I'm pretty high confidence that something's happening, and it's not cool, similar to what happened in GameStop. And I'm going to do my best to piss off a few people, okay? Because these are my goddamn shares. Don't touch my goddamn shares. You hear me? If I find out you touched my shares, I'm not going to let this stop. I'm never going to let it stop. Okay. Now that I'm done getting a little angry about it, super mad about it, we can go back to this real quick on this. Okay, so where are we at? Last video, if you want to go back and watch, I talked about how this stock is super undervalued. It's being orchestrated by a turnaround story from private equity. So the floor is already set. There's like no risk to going bankrupt. The lowest that it would ever have gotten was like the $2.75 that it got to for like a brief moment a few months ago. That's probably when the short trap happened. Today alone, the stock is worth $9. And then, most stocks are based on future earnings. So this thing could get much higher. Okay. And so the last piece of evidence that I wanted to supply to everyone before I end this video is another thing I found out this week, which is previously I thought that the only players were this Fund 1-800-Flowers, and the short sellers. Retail has no involvement here. I'm just like a tiny little person. It's really them. I'm watching a battle between these people trying to figure out who's on whose side and who's going to win. Okay? What I found out was there's this weird entity on Whale Wisdom. Okay? All right, let's see if I can get it up. Whale Wisdom, stock, flowers. Where are we at? Here we go. This I did not see before. Okay? Jacobson Mitchell, 2 million shares from a 13G filing right around the same time Newton bought the $3 million that Fund 1 dumped. Okay? This is all around the same time. And look, there's BlackRock too. 1.7. Nomura. These guys are most likely trying to hedge from the possible squeeze, but I think it's too late. All right, but back to Jacobson Mitchell. Who's Jacobson Mitchell? I didn't notice this one. I was like, who the heck is this? That's a big player. It's new too, fully new, not a change, new. What is going on here? I had to look into this. Okay, you can pull this up for yourself. You can find out who Jacobson Mitchell is. I looked. I figured it out. Here it is. Here. Okay, some interesting things here. All right, this is the 2.9 million you saw there. These are all these shares that are supposedly bought in. Okay. I believe this is all in 1-800-Flowers alone. I don't want to pull it up right now, but there's a reason why, when you type in FLWS here, what comes up is this one. Jacob Mitchell, right? And Jacob Mitchell, if you look into it, it is basically like a trust, a family trust, okay? This is a family trust where they are taking those shares and they are throwing them into the family trust, constraining the float even more, making them untradeable. Why would they be doing this? Why is Jacobson Mitchell doing this? I'll tell you why. It adds so much beautiful layer to the story. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Who's Jacobson Mitchell? Well, that's
Michael
not important.
Jacobson.
What's important
Welcome
is
to Acquiring
who
Minds.
is
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Michael, you bought
his
your uncle's
nephew, I
small,
believe, or Mitchell Jacobson. Sorry.
struggling, I think it's fair to say, florist business. It was the sort of tiny, challenging retail business
Michael
that you see
Jacobson,
all over Acquiring Minds. But 4 years later, that store is doing over $9 million in sales. A little flower shop now doing over $9 million in sales. This is an unlikely and remarkable story of entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I haven't even mentioned how you're now aiming to build a national franchise.
Michael, you bought your uncle's.
Let's
doesn't matter anyways.
Michael, start
What you do,
start
you need
off.
to do
I
is
think
watch
it's fair to
this
say,
yourself.
florist business.
Yeah, basically, this video
if you asked me
is
6 or 7 years ago if I would be
CEO
operating
for French Florist,
flower
right?
shops
He's
and
part of the
starting to build and scale
billionaire
what we are.
Mitchell
I
Jacobson
said,
empire. These are
great. I don't know if
billionaire
that's gonna be
family
true or not,
company.
but,
They're an
I
empire.
think with a lot of things, life is a little bit
The story, if you
unpredictable.
listen to
It's been an amazing
this,
journey
is
so far, but,
he went into
running a flower
consulting.
shop is a
He
romantic
didn't love his
idea.
job.
I think it's up
He
there with
wanted to
owning
do
a
something else.
bakery or
Talks to his
cafe.
uncle. His uncle says,
A
"Hey, I
flower
have a
shop is up
struggling
there,
flower
but,
shop that I think could be great."
It used to be really hard when I first came into
I'll
it.
sell it
There's
to
no
you for
technology.
$600,000.
There's a horrible supply chain.
And
There's
do
a
what
lot
you
of
can with it.
unnecessary
He
intermediaries.
does that, and he turns it into $9 million.
That's what got me really
Breaks down
excited.
how
There's
he
a lot of
does
pain in
that.
the industry,
It's
and
a really
honestly,
cool
that's what made
story.
me fall in love with it.
It weirdly
the more time I
matches
spend in the
almost
industry, the deeper
exactly
I
the
fall in love with
plans
it.
that management at
Well, Michael,
100
but
Flowers
give
is
us,
trying to do
give
right
us some
now.
background on you. What were you
So
doing
this most
in your
likely
previous life?
is
How did your uncle approach you, etc.? Give us
the
the
full
real story.
end
here.
game. I don't know
so
if
I
Fund
spent
1
most of my
saw this
time
happening
in
and they
a
jumped in
kind
later.
of
I don't know if
boardroom,
they are helping them. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
A
The
bunch of old
point
white
is
guys in
that
suits, fluorescent lighting, linoleum floors.
multiple
that was my world.
private
Really
equity billionaires are
exhilarating.
here doing
And,
something with this company,
so I was just out
turning
of
it
college.
into
I joined
something that
corporate
it isn't
consulting. Worked
today.
for a wonderful firm. I learned a
Shorts
lot,
either
but
got baited in by
after a month of
accident
working
or
there,
on
I
purpose.
said
I
I knew
don't
this wasn't for
know.
me. I stuck it out for
But
a
this
little
company
over a
has
year,
big plans for the
just
future.
to follow through with that commitment. But,
He talks
just
about
wasn't really
here.
fulfilled.
I'm a supply chain person,
and
so
so
this
I was
speaks
kind
to
of
my
really
alleys. Why I was
actively
stuck on
looking
this
for
forever.
something that was
Talks
a
about how
little bit
when
more
there's some
entrepreneurial.
companies,
I've always
some
kind of had that spirit,
industries
but you hear the
that there's
rates
so
of
much
failure of all
low-hanging
these
fruit
startups,
that
and
when
it's
you
kind of a
walk in the
scary
door
thing.
as
I've
someone
joined a
who's
couple
a little bit tech savvy or loves
startups,
supply chain, you're like,
kind
oh
of as
my
an
god,
ancillary
I
member
see
in
so
college
much
as
room
well,
for
and
improvement.
none of them had
And
really
that's
made it.
what this
So,
industry is. That's why
so right
they're
out of
doing
college, I
this.
didn't want to take the risk. I joined corporate
Okay,
consulting, but
so
I wasn't
now,
fulfilled.
if you can
I
agree
didn't
with
have
this
that
part
fire
of
in
the
my
story,
stomach. About a year into corporate
this
consulting,
might give us a
already kind of
possible
having my ears perked
valuation.
up on
Okay?
different opportunities that
Why
could
does
come
this
my
give us
way.
a
My
possible
uncle gave me a
valuation?
call and he
Let's go
said,
back.
hey, I've been trying to sell my flower shop for the past couple of years.
This is important here. 68,
and I haven't been able
70,
to successfully.
69.
I studied finance in undergrad, had the opportunity to work
If
in,
they
Wall Street.
only
Thank goodness I didn't go that route, just corporate consulting, which is
WS
a
in
little
this
less
trust,
bad.
and this trust is based on
kind of
shares
a loose background in
that they're
finance, so he
valuing
called on me
at
and
that.
was happy to help him just as a family member.
Which is like a private trust, so
So
they have
I
to
went
come
to
up
his
with that
flower
value
shop.
somewhere.
I checked it out, and he was doing.
I could be wrong
a
on
decent
some
amount
points
of revenue,
but this is
it
speculation
was
now.
pretty much operating at a loss.
It doesn't matter to me, but I'm trying to put it all together. So I'm
my
going
uncle
to
is no different.
keep hammering away at it.
They're
But
amazing people.
It
They're
very
really
well could
passionate.
be.
They're really
If you know
creative.
private equity and
They have
stuff like
huge
that.
hearts.
Imagine
they love what they
you
do.
had this
They
idea
work,
as
40,
this
50,
gentleman
sometimes
did
60 hours
after
a
you
week.
successfully did it in a
6
different
days a
company.
week,
That you wanted to do it with 1-800
they do
Flowers.
it not necessarily
And
for the money,
you
but because they
present
love what they
a
do.
whole
But they're not
pitch to your investors,
usually
your family,
business
rich
people. They don't know what a
billionaire
profit and loss
uncles and
is. They
stuff
don't
like
know a
that.
balance
And you
sheet.
say,
So,
hey, I
whole
want
industry has
to
been kind of
do this to this company. I have plans on how we can
stagnant,
do it.
if you will,
It's going to be
in terms of
complicated,
innovation
whatever.
and-
But
and,
actually,
so my
we
uncle
might
was
get
kind of the average
price
flower shop that you
realization
might walk into
instantly
that
if
you
we
could
do
imagine
it.
a lot of
And
paper-driven
let's do it this
processes,
way.
my job
And
was to
based
help
on
them sell.
all
So
of my
that's-
math,
paint a
I think
picture
we're
of it.
going to
So
be
where is it,
minimum worth
first of all?
$68
Where
a
is this
share.
flower shop?
And that's
Yeah, so it was kind of in between Beverly Hills
you need a
and West
valuation
Hollywood,
to whatever
on Melrose, if you've
scheme
heard of
you
it.
got, whatever
And,
plan
it
you
was a
got. Right, this
1,000
could
square foot shop.
he
My
could have
uncle's
very well
passion was
pitched,
actually,
not 1-800 Flowers.
creating
This is
music.
This
he
is
also kind of fell into
Flowers
the industry.
2.0, a new
So
company
he
in
had
the
bottom
future.
half
This is
of
how
his
we're going
shop
to
was a
either
flower shop, and the
acquire
top half,
shares.
he
We're going to
built the
merge with
second
the
floor.
McCann family. We're going to,
won't tell you what
do something. We're going to do something,
legally built
whatever.
at the time or
And
not,
it's
but
going to be worth
it put in a second
$69
floor
a
on that
share when
unit,
we're done.
and the top half was the recording studio where you
It
would
can
invite
be more
musicians
complicated than that, but it could
and,
also be
mix
this simple.
stuff.
That's what they're targeting. I don't know
and
for
that
sure.
Was it. It was,
what I know
think
for
he
sure
told me
is that
the first day that he opened up,
trading at
I
4,
think he did $40 in sales.
worth 9, fund 1,
35
everyone
years
else
later
is not in this for
was,
less than probably
wasn't doing
12 or
$40 in sales,
16.
but
New analyst reports are coming out, I believe,
at least
valuing it
have
at
a
like
substantial take coming
16 minimum. So
45 years.
add
this
high
flower shop had
valuation
been there.
to
Yep.
In the same
short
location
selling
for 45
pressure,
years?
and that's
Yeah,
why you
it
get
moved
a possible squeeze.
about
That's why you're getting the fight
10 years ago,
bad
and
of this price point.
the lease
They
was
don't
up, so they
want
moved to a
it
location that was maybe
ever
15 blocks down the way.
this
Yeah.
$4
And
price.
I hear
because
in between West
I'm not going to pull this
Hollywood
up. Look at this other
and,
weird volume, right?
Beverly Hills.
Right at the end of the day,
I hear
another 200,
Melrose,
another 200,
and
okay?
not having
That's because
super
the
deep
price
understanding of
cannot
geography.
spike
I hear fancy.
above
Is it fancy?
Oh, sorry, I didn't have my.
So the
screen
shop
for
is not
this.
fancy.
Whoopsies, you guys are still looking at the
You
wrong thing.
know,
Let's go back.
it's really interesting, and
There we go.
the way that he
Okay.
operated his flower shop,
So look at
it
this.
actually the business. I was
Two
very
huge
attracted to it
anomaly
because it had really
spikes.
good
This is
bones.
a lot of what my
and the
complaints
fact
are about that I'm trying to
it
throw a
could-
wrench in
It was
there.
close to the
Plans of
fancy,
avoiding
but
admitting
it
this.
was in a little Jewish neighborhood
is
that was kind
statistically
of up and coming
impossible.
at the time, and honestly
Unless
still
you're
is.
using
The
market
overhead is
maker
really low. You have
exemptions
really
to
low rent,
avoid a short squeeze,
and
which
so
you're allowed to
close
do
to Beverly
up
Hills
to
and
a
West Hollywood,
point,
where you can service
okay?
those clientele.
Because
but
you guys
your
got to
rent and your
remember,
overhead
laws
is
are there
super,
in
super low.
place to
That's actually one of the
both
things that
protect
makes us
and
have a
protect
much healthier
investors,
bottom line
meaning
today,
that
and, kind of he pioneered that.
the theory behind these
Fancy,
laws
but
that
more
market
paying for
makers
our rent's part of fancy.
overuse unethically, in my
Great.
opinion,
Okay.
is
That's a great,
they're allowed to stop a short squeeze
guess
if
you
it's
lucked
a
into that.
manipulative
The,
short squeeze, right? If
1,000
if
square
it's a
feet,
pump and dump,
is
if
that,
everyone hopped online and said, "Hey, jump on in this,"
So what is that?
blah, blah,
Kind,
okay.
kind of a large.
There's laws to say,
one-bedroom
"Hey,
apartment.
market makers,
I
you
imagine,
can
right?
you
Does that sound
basically
about
have
right?
like
I'm trying to give people a
numbers of
visual
days to
who don't have a
relieve
good
the
sense of square
pressure."
footage.
Okay.
Yeah,
But at a certain
exactly.
point, if you start
I
going
think a lot
through
of
all those
one-bedrooms,
legal
at least here
loopholes,
in Los
and you
Angeles,
can't
are,
relieve the buying
850
pressure,
square feet,
then you got to
maybe a max of
capitulate
1,000
and
square
say
feet.
it's not a
New York,
it's
you're
not
lucky if you
a
have 400 square
synthetic
feet, right?
squeeze
And so,
or
a
fake
little
squeeze
bigger
anymore.
than
It's
a
organic.
one-bedroom,
Investors
but
want this
not much
stock.
bigger.
You're
Yeah.
holding it down. You got to
And is
stop.
that kind of a
And
typical
that's how
footprint
you
for
get
a little neighborhood
immediate
florist?
price
It is.
realization
It depends on what part
to
of the
what
country.
it should
I've looked at a
be
lot of
once they
flower shops at
turn
this
off
point,
these
in the middle of the
bots,
country
okay?
where your
And this
overhead's
is
a little
why
lower.
there's a
They might
difference between a
have
squeeze
2,000
and private
or even
equity's
2,500 square
instant
feet,
price
which is
realization
kind of a 3 or 4
pitch that
bedroom
they probably
place. It's
gave to
honestly there's a
their
lot of empty
investors,
space,
right?
and
They didn't pitch
you
it
can
as
kind
a
of think of a florist. They
squeeze
like
where
to
we need
accumulate a
retail
lot
to
of
jump
stuff.
in. That's
There's a
not
lot
the
of
point
shelving, a
here.
lot of
If retail
clutter.
jumps in, cool.
you know, when I
the
came
whole
into
point
the
here
shop,
is to
there's on-prem
constrain the
servers, and
shares
that actually was the office
of
that I
a
worked
company
in,
that
was the
can't
server
go
room,
private because
for the
McCann
first
doesn't want to
couple
go
years of
give it up.
owning the
It's not
flower
going
shop.
bankrupt. So how do we do that?
And
We merge with
had my
him. We
mattress in
take
the
shares. We
corner,
turn this into a
had
new
a bunch of wires and,
conglomerate.
you know,
Okay?
the blue and white screen where you have to push the F10 key to get to the next page.
And
like
also,
that was the
no
industry
one
leading
would suspect us
technology
from some
in
crazy little flower
2018
company.
for the
But go
floral
watch that
industry, which
YouTube
is
video of that
absurd,
kid. He's
but
proven how it's
that's what we were
possible.
working with. So it was
Sorry, I called them
as
kids, not
antiquated
kids.
as I could possibly
My
describe
problem.
it. You know, wires everywhere, you know, drop ceiling with acoustic tiling, concrete floors,
that's it for
purple
now.
walls, and, you know, kind of green
so much more to talk
accent
about.
color is just really just kind of a funny mom and pop.
I guess we'll probably
place
talk
that was
more
very warm. The culture was great, but just very, very much mom and pop.
Because next
papers flying
episode,
everywhere, right?
Well, Michael, a lot of what you just described
how
will be familiar to my guests, and is kind of a common pattern you see in boomer businesses: the lack of technology, the organized chaos, the
correlated
totally
to or
outdated
to the overall market
decor and certain technology, etc. But it's often all of that, but throwing off a crazy amount of cash.
Similar.
Yours was all of that, but also not throwing off any money. In fact,
maybe we'll go into depth in the next episode.
Right?
But for now,
he was basically unprofitable.
You should watch this
Give us a financial picture, please. And starting with, what is revenue at
some
this business
complex
at this time?
issues.
Yeah, so revenue is
and
about
I just want to leave you guys with some thoughts,
revenue,
which
so
is
not nothing. It was a substantial revenue, and
in a
it was
perfect
probably
world,
kicking off 10 or 15%. So
prices are
he
simple.
might have been taking about 60 or 70K home. What ended up
dictated
happening
by
though,
supply and demand, right? You learn that in school. Free market. Everything is supply and demand equals price.
You're buying a business. You're also buying that liability.
The problem is,
a lot of the times, and
we're
the
not
reason that this was
necessarily in
a
a free
risky buy
market
at the time was there was a lot of
one that existed. And B,
especially being in California, there's labor laws that are a lot more strict, and there was some litigation that was going on that was wage and hour, workers' comp,
it's the derivative
and my uncle was operating as a sole proprietor, and so all of that litigation went on to him. He wasn't shielded,
and it's really resonating what's going on.
And so he also
today.
didn't really have deep insurance
and for, past 30 years, which
coverage. So he was
all of
these litigation
crashes,
costs out of pocket,
market
which
crashes and
way
stuff like
more
that
than
that
drained
people
the 60
forget
or
are
70
all
that he should have
related
been
to
making,
one
that pushed him into a loss. Not only that, but there was really no end in sight because even after he got through some of that litigation, nobody wanted to insure him. His loss runs and loss history was too big, and so his moderate
overall market
premiums
downturn
were so high
basically
that the insurance cost alone
such
would
a
wipe out
short
that 60 or
squeeze
70K that he'd be earning. So
everyone, it's short squeeze in demand. It's like an inverse, right? Everyone dumps immediately
even if there's not litigation
because
now.
Books can't reconcile.
The next couple of years
books aren't
say,
reconciling somewhere.
The old
what
owner
happens in the repo market sometimes.
Did this or that.
This is what happens.
Can hold you as the new owner liable because that liability shifts.
It's hard to explain to everyone, so you're going to have to really piece it all together from the past 10 years of everything. We've been kicking the can down the road forever. Our derivatives market is failing.
Pretty typical profile.
That's why these short squeezes keep
happening. You said that there are in places
we passed too many laws that allow them to trade synthetically on stuff that doesn't actually exist.
Typical for
this
a suburban
FLWS
flower shop, let's call it.
If the system actually breaks because of this guy gives you a good breakdown of what this means for you. And this happens in countries all the time. America, the only reason it hasn't broken here is because
in revenue, usually
we
making
have
about 10-12%
been
profit
the
margins. It's only 30,
world currency
40K.
for entire
the top
existence.
5% of florists might be
that
doing,
seems to be
6,
breaking
7,
as
800K
well.
revenue.
Case in point
the top,
that we're
10
actually
might be doing 3 or 4 million.
for once in my lifetime going to war over
it's
the dollar's strength and like actively basically admitting it because we're so concerned that if all these factors hit at once.
Them are doing again on average about 350K.
My spidey senses are tingling. That's why all this stuff is happening. That's why gold is trading like a freaking meme stock right now, and everything else commodities are.
So when you think
we're at a big
who's the dominant player of
pivot
coffee,
point in the world,
depending on what part of the country you're from,
I don't know if we're going to kick the can down the road another 10 or 20 years. We might,
further
but
innovation on top of Starbucks and Dunkin'
some weird
in the
stuff
coffee
is going
space
on
now. But that even the Starbucks effect hasn't even happened in the.
So this is how it all impacts.
It's all mom and pop shops.
100
kind of
Flowers.
Like the Starbucks era still.
This happened similarly in GameStop during COVID.
Pre-call, it's a great way of
when there was a big bubble
of this industry
because everyone's at home trading meme stocks is when it creates inflation
and we're going
to
keep returning to these industry dynamics
so that when they actually have to locate shares from already really shorted stock like a GameStop,
and I just so love
it causes the pressure to be huge, and that's kind of what we're at now. I'm not saying 100 Flowers is dragging on the whole economy right now or the whole stock market. What I'm saying is there's a bunch of 100 Flowers hidden under the market right now on top of many other converging factors.
So he was trying to sell
it. He
wanted your help selling it.
Everyone's panicking. I can tell that when I called E-Trade,
he could sell
and
it.
You can try yourself, call
somebody like me would tell him
desk and stuff like
you
that.
Can't
Their
even sell this
phones
business.
seem
I'm
like
sorry,
they're ringing off the hook in the background.
Yeah, and it's not fully
There's
what I
definitely
said
some blood in the water. It's not just this company.
Be a little more candid,
I see it. You can see it on Reddit as well. You pick your favorite shorted stock.
The reality is, I did go to a bunch of different flower shops. I looked at the comparables.
Data points are pinging, and you got to put it all together. And I think I have. I don't need to prove it. You guys
especially with the litigation that he had, it was.
The last thing I'll leave you with is
I don't want to say unsellable, but as close to unsellable as you could probably
Epstien. Okay, you guys need to watch this. Okay,
there was work that I needed to do with him in order to make the financials look better.
His full interview,
let the litigation ride out a little bit. And so I said, we can probably sell the business, but it might take 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Overall market.
In the meantime, let's
he's 100% right. I've said this forever. Whatever you feel about the guy, the guy's right. I always thought that he didn't know what he was talking about.
So we went to work, and so that's how I got involved in a little bit more
like that. I believe what everyone else said, that he was most likely a fraud.
For a couple of months, I quit my job.
Listening to some of these interviews,
he is
one of the things spot on. He's similar to me, not to be a narcissist.
I wanted to just listen
dude, but
to all of
similar
the
to me. He's a big
6 or 7
picture, small picture connector. Okay,
a couple of them were customer
service
reps.
He's able to understand how the world operates and tie it down to potentially one company.
I asked them, if you have a magic wand, you could do absolutely anything. You could make
in the
business
derivatives
better.
market there, where they were over leveraged.
What would you do? And they said, well, I'm having a really hard time hearing the customers, and sometimes they have a really hard time hearing me too. I think we need better phones.
So just to break that down, simple, it's a similar thing. They over leveraged in what they thought was a risk-free asset, right? The government is backing your mortgage loans, and
how much are we paying
for all of history?
I looked at
if you're taught in finance, what's the risk-free rate? Oh, that's the U.S. Treasury rate. Okay, and this thing is backed by the U.S. Okay, so that's risk-free too. Let's over-leverage on it. That's what they did. Turns out it wasn't risk-free because they didn't account for people actually defaulting and the system being messed up, and it caused everything to collapse. Okay,
ways of communicating.
We could very well be at a place like that today. If not, we probably are. And if we don't hit it, then we're probably just going to kick the can down the road a little bit longer.
And so when I went to my uncle and I said, "Why are you paying this much money for your phones?"
Things are getting crazy.
He's like, "Whoa, well, our phone sales guy will take care of it. Don't worry. Like, he's always treated me very well." And I'm like, I don't know.
It ties back to 1-800 Flowers and every other of your favorite one short stocks. I would love to get deep in all these other shorted companies, but I just don't have time now because I'm so deep in this one. So I would say that after this saga is all over,
and it was, boom,
we're going to do a full recap and try to understand what's happening here, because I believe we're on
that was the first move that we made. It was literally just something as simple as changing the phone systems. And we started to make, a couple of those decisions, led to a couple dozen of those decisions, led probably, a couple hundred of those decisions throughout that first year of these